We all tell each other so many different things each day. Much of what we say is our own thoughts shared with another, and this is called direct speech. So, for example, today is my birthday. I'm having dinner with my family. We like to spend the day together. This is all examples of direct speech, and standard English is filled with this kind of direct speech, the things that people say to each other. But standard English also makes use of reported speech. To tell others what someone else has said. So, for example, the direct speech might be something like, I'm waiting for my pizza. Those are my exact words. Direct speech. And the reported speech version of that is Richard said that he was waiting for his pizza. We can see that the ideas are the same, but the first example is direct speech, that's what I said, and then the reported speech is really someone else telling you what I said. And we use reported speech to communicate another person's ideas. We find reported speech used in newspaper stories, fiction, academic work, talking and writing about conversations. We use reported speech to share a speech that we've heard. And when we use reported speech, we're also using a certain group of verbs called reporting verbs. And the most common reporting verbs are say and tell. But there's also many more reporting verbs, such as state, Richard states, or Richard stated, blah, blah. Opine means to give an opinion. Relate, she related that she, etc., etc. Or Mary believes that people are blah, blah, blah. Suggest, explain, warn, advise, etc. There's a number of these kind of reporting verbs that we use in English. And if we're looking more closely now at reporting verbs, then we should also see that different reporting verbs also vary in the types of constructions that they can introduce. So, for example, when we use say, then we're going to be following it with a that or a WH included or embedded clause. For example, our first example, Richard said that he was waiting for his pizza, and that he was waiting is the included clause. Jan said when she was arriving. Here we have a WH included clause. Or Mike said where he parked the car. Where he parked the car is our WH included clause. Now, on the other hand, when we use tell as our reporting verb, then we can use other constructions or phrases to follow it. For example, she told us that she was hungry. So first we have a noun phrase, and then we're followed by a that included sentence or clause. Call that a clause. Okay. Now also we can use something like she told us. That's another noun phrase. To leave. And that's what we call an infinitive. She told a joke. Now we have a noun phrase. So we can see that different reporting verbs use different kinds of structures to follow them, to tell what was said, to report what was said. Now, an obvious feature, when you look at this, you probably noticed that when you do reporting speech, changing from, for example, the exact words that somebody said, direct speech, to reported speech, you have to make certain changes or transformations that depend on the tense of the reporting verb. You know, very often there's a change. We saw this. There's a change from the present to the past. For example, direct speech, I need my credit card back. So let's say you're in the store and you bought something, and then you tell the clerk, hey, I need my credit card back. So the verb need is the present same time. But then he says, what did you say? And my friend says, Richard said that he needed his credit card back. So we see that we started with present same time in direct speech, but in reported speech, the reporting verb is past, same time, and what I said has also been pushed back to the past, same time. These are the kinds of transformations that occur when you change from direct speech to reported speech. Now, there's basically a sequence of tense rules that are followed when reporting the speech of others. And, this tense rules, they're called backshifting. Once you start to report others' speech, it becomes pushed back farther into the past, or from present to past. So, for example, let's take a look. I say, this is direct speech, I lost my wallet. Lost is past, same time. And now you ask somebody and they say, what did Joe say? The reported speech. Joe said that he had lost his wallet. This is how it works in standard English. So now I report the speech. I use a past, same time reporting verb, but I need to backshift the original verb, which was in the past, same time. I need to shift it back to past, earlier. Or we could take a look at another example. I have finished my lunch. So we have present, earlier. So this is the direct speech. Now the reported speech, Joe said that he had finished his lunch. So we see that the reporting verb is the past, same time, and from the direct speech, present earlier, the reported speech becomes past earlier. It's been back-shifted or pushed back into an earlier tense. Direct speech, I will see you at the movies. Reported speech, Joe said that he would see us at the movies. So we can see here we went from direct speech, present, later, reporting verb, reported speech, past, same time, and what I said is also pushed or back shifted to the past, later. And this is how it looks when you do reported speech. So let's continue. Now, sometimes though, not all reported speech has to go through these kinds of transformations. So for example, let's say someone says something but what they said has a habitual sense or idea to it. It's not necessary to change the tense or to backshift the reported speech. So, for example, the direct speech version, I need a car to go to work. Reported speech, Mary said we can put that. Mary said that she needs a car to go to work. Since this is something that's always true, then we can leave, this is present same time, the direct speech. The reported speech, we can also leave present same time because it's something that's habitual. Or you also have another choice. If you wanted to, you could even keep the reporting verb in the habitual. Mary says, present same time, that she needs a car to go to work. Present same time. Okay. Now, of course, so far we've been talking about standard English, but you already know that I like to compare and contrast standard English with vernaculars, the spoken language and different dialects of the spoken language. Now, vernaculars also use reported speech in very much the same way as standard English does. However, unlike standard English, vernaculars now also commonly share the exact words of others. So they actually are quoting what people say, but they don't use quotation marks and they don't say something like, Mary said, quote, I'm hungry, end quote. Instead, they use the expressions be like and go. And be like and go are used to introduce the quotes. Now, in the last 25 years, these forms have spread like wildfire. It's really amazing. They may have started with Valley Girls Speak in California, perhaps in the 1980s, 1990s, but today, be like and go are actually used worldwide, and they're used in all different kinds of vernaculars and dialects. It's really quite amazing. So imagine that Jan and her friend are talking, and Jan says, I was so mad, and he's like, what's the big deal? And I go, you hurt my feelings. I think that probably all of us have heard something like this. This is the be like. Here it's present, same time. Actually, we're using a contraction of is. And the go is also the no S form. It's present, same time. I was so mad. And let me add that in. I was so mad. And he's like, what's the big deal? And I go, you hurt my feelings. It sounds like real spoken English, the vernacular. Let's take a look. We'll see if we can find another one. Now, also, because we're using be, it's possible that we can also change the tense and the orientations of these just the same way we did with all the other verbs. For example, she says, I know, and this is Jan still, I know we are going to get into a fight. And he'll be like what's the big deal? And I'll go, you hurt my feelings. The ideas are very much the same as the first example I showed you, but I just want to show you here that now we are going to get an I know. So this is present, same time, present, later. He'll be present later, like what's the big deal? And I'll go present later, you hurt my feelings. So we can see we kept the same example, but we changed the orientation in the relationships of these. But there's another possibility. We could also say, you want to tell the story. We got into a fight and he was like, what's the big deal? And I went, you hurt my feelings. So here we have past, same time, was like, past, same time. Now I forgot to mention that in the quote, because it's the exact words, that's present, same time. What's the big deal? And I went, past, same time. You hurt my feelings. And since that's part of the quote, that also is present, same time. Okay, shall we do another example or two? Okay, why not? I knew we were going to get into a fight and he'd be like, what's the big deal? And I'd be like you hurt my feelings. So let's just do a quick analysis here. So I knew is past, same time. We were going to get into a fight. That's also past, but later. And he would be past, later, like what's the big deal? Present, same time. And I would be past, later, like you hurt my feelings. Present, same time. Now, I forgot to mention that, if you wanted to, it doesn't always have to be like together with go. It could be two instances of be like. That would be fine. There's no problem with that at all. You can also have two instances of go just as easily. So, for example, I knew we were going to get into a fight, and he'd go. What's the big deal? And I'd go. You hurt my feelings. So we can see that be like and go can be used with each other. They can be used exclusively without each other. So you could have be, I'd be, he'd be. You could use be like with many different examples and never use go. Or you could use go and never use be like. It's really, anything is possible. There's many different kinds of orientations possible, relationships possible, and different aspects also, of course, can be included in these direct quotes that are introduced with be like and go. Now, there's one more in my opinion, I think this is a really interesting thing, is be like can also be used to introduce the thinking of a person. It's not only, be like is not only introduced or used to introduce the direct words, but it's also used to introduce the thinking of a person, not just the exact words. For example, let's take a look at our sentence. I was talking to my teacher about a late assignment, and I was like, why is this person so strict? What's their problem? Now here, those are not the exact words that she said. It's what she was thinking. And she used be like to introduce that idea. So we can see that Standard English uses reported speech. So Standard English uses reported speech to introduce the words that someone said. Of course, Standard English also use quotes too, but really not when you're writing or not when you're speaking. Quotes are really primarily used for sharing the exact words of somebody in writing. But with vernaculars, they do use reported speech also, but in speaking, and that makes sense because it's a vernacular, they also use this be, like, and go to report or to introduce the exact words, quotes, of people or someone's thinking. Now, be, like, and go have become incredibly popular, and slowly but surely they're creeping their way into Standard English. And, I think that they're going to become part of Standard English in the very near future. And it's interesting because we're witnessing a change in the language taking place before our eyes, or maybe I should say taking place before our ears. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed sharing this information with you.